Hello,
Welcome back to Writing Off the Deep End.
I'm Geoffrey Edwards.
And I'm Mary Thaler. And for this episode, we will be talking about practice again.
And it'll be focused on a certain number of topics that spilled over from the first session. So
Let's get started.
Okay. It was interesting. The last project that I worked on before the one I'm doing now, which was this writing project on the Second World War.
Yeah.
And it involved doing research in relation to Poland.
Yeah.
And I went to Poland and did some of the research in Poland.
Yeah.
And I was writing as I was in the hotel there doing the research.
Yeah.
And it was a bit like what you described about this more fragmentary kind of thing. It came through, I didn't have time to reorganize things while I was there. So it was a bit here and a bit there and a bit there and a bit there and a bit there. And then I had to pull it together into something.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting process. I did enjoy it, although it's very different from the normal way I work, where I do work from a rough outline, and I follow a rough outline, although I rarely stick to it.
Yeah. So let's go back to talking about that. You've heard about my notebook and how and my post outlines. What's your...
So I always write directly to the computer, and in fact most of the 15-book saga that I've written was written on an iPad.
Okay. Which is really portable.
Which is not using the typing method, but using the two-finger method. But I still write in cafes a lot. I often do the first drafts on the iPad. But on the 15-book saga, where I am now, the collection of books is so large, the iPad doesn't lend itself to a very large project because you can only have one thing on the screen at a time.
Right.
Whereas on the computer you can have several windows open and just move between them. And for the large project I have to have that. So all of the writing on the large saga is now done on my laptop and not on the iPad.
I meant to ask, do you take notes on the side as you're doing it? Like how much extra things surround your page as you're writing?
It's a good question. I don't take notes usually when I'm writing, although I may stop the writing and move to a note environment to do some additional thing. But often I do my research and write extensive notes when I do my research, and then I consult my notes when I'm doing the writing.
Okay.
I rarely go back to consult the actual original research books because I've written these extensive notes.
Right.
And
Which
usually
you
when
can
I
find
wrote
your
them,
way around? Okay.
They're
organized.
usually organized.
Good for you.
I may scroll quite a lot in order to find the stuff, but
Okay. Now you do keep an outline. Are you looking back and forth between your outline as you're?
I have an outline in my head. I have it written down, but it's more in my head.
Once it's written, it's there. Eh?
Yes,
it's almost,
exactly.
I find the same thing. It's the active writing that's important more than having it written
and
on
I
a page.
rarely follow the outline strictly because as I say, I'm a bit of a pantser, and so I find when the writing, that stuff emerges in the writing that didn't go into the outline, and so it gets modified, and often it gets to a point where the outline is now useless, and then I have to post outline, like you say, rethink things afterwards in order to get things to...
I think whether you do it before or not, you're definitely going to do it after. Yeah. It's just...
For the science fiction, though, hey, to write this massive thing in this massive universe, I had a list of planets, a list of habitats, a list of characters. I've got several hundred characters in it. Yeah. So I have lists and descriptions of many of these things that were pre-developed before I started the writing. Yeah. Or developed during the writing. I've got about 350 pages of notes for the books. So. Yeah.
That's your binder.
Exactly. Yeah. But that doesn't mean to say I'm constantly in that looking at it. It's more a kind of a background that I can dip into when I need to.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to let that kind of stuff take over your writing. I think it's an important support for the writing.
I love the research, I have to say.
I do
mean, I
too.
love and when I say research, it's not just the research, delving through books online or physical books, but also writing up background material.
Yeah.
That I consider also to be a kind of research. It's not quite the typical research, but
It's
it is
research in your brain.
Exactly. So I love all of that, and of course there's a balance between the time writing and the time doing research, because the time doing research could take all the time, and there wouldn't be no time left to write.
I hear you. There have been times, I think we've established that I like rules and routines, so I had to say to myself, 25% of your time can be research, but no more. The rest of it has to be actually writing.
Okay.
And I think that was a reasonable cap.
One of the things that interests me about writing is meta writing. So I keep a journal of about my writing.
Yes, I think this is just fascinating that you do. I'm thinking of doing it too.
So I have so for my 15-book saga, I have 150 pages of journal writing about the writing of the saga.
Yeah.
Oh.
Do you go back and look at it? Have you?
I read it on a regular basis because it's what's interesting about the journal is it's more about the relationship between my life and my writing. It's that mix. It's also ideas that I have or readings that I've done about the writing process or about particular books that I'm working on and ideas about where it could go, and so all of that's in there. So it's definitely worth rereading because it has a lot of stuff in it about the ideas as they developed and that kind of thing. So
I think it's important to reflect on how we write, and I think that's what your journal is making you do.
Yeah, exactly. So I do like this sort of meta regard over the process. Yeah.
Now, revisions is something that we've touched on briefly. What is your practice? Do you do a full draft before you go back to edit?
I do a full draft before I go to edit. Although I've found that over the years, as I get better as a writer, I pay more attention to what goes down in the first draft, so that I have less editing to do after than I used to.
Yeah.
So
you can see yourself progressing. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. But any writing needs revision. So and I'm still learning. I still feel that I'm learning the revision process in a way that is compelling.
Yeah.
It's difficult to do.
Yes.
So I mean, it's a emotionally difficult, I guess, is what I mean.
It's a very strange state of mind to put yourself in, where you love your writing. Obviously, you love your writing, or you wouldn't be lavishing so much time on it. But you can't love it too much. You have to. You can't hold on to it so tightly that you can't throw it away, because you might have to throw it away.
The editing requires distance from your writing. So this is what I find really difficult. Is I read what I've written and I think, yeah, this is great. But in order to revise it, I know that you have to step back and say, well, this could be rewritten. This is not great. This needs to be tweaked. Yeah. And that distance is what I found really difficult. It's slowly getting easier.
I usually end up having to start my revisions in the middle, and the reason is I get stuck. I write half my project and I don't know how it's going to end.
Right.
And the reason why I don't know how it's going to end is because I need to know more about my character. I need to think about it more deeply. And that comes with thinking deeply over time. And so pausing and going back and revising what I've already written is a way for me to spend time with the project, even though it's not moving forward. I'm with it and I'm thinking about it. And at a certain point, I have some kind of breakthrough about the character or the situation, and then I can move it forward from the end again. So it usually comes almost at the end. Almost at the end, I get very stuck. I have to stop.
I think that's also my process. Interesting, because a lot of it is different, but that is very similar, I think, for me. So I do revise to do that too. I do go back over text, and often there's a small place where it may have gone into a path that isn't quite right, and then if I can correct that and bring it back to where it needs to go, then it goes forward from there.
Exactly. Your foundations need to be solid before you can put the keystone in.
Right.
And so revising is a way to go back and check those.
Yeah. Although I have found when I write something that I've become wary of. For instance, when I'm writing under pressure in the competition environment, I get to a point where I get a sudden flash and I know how to finish the book.
Yeah.
And I write this, and it tends to write very quickly, and I have a thing and I finish, and then I come back to it later and I go, this is too quick. It shortchanges the reader on things, and I have to go back and rewrite it, and I now mistrust this easy quick fix at the end now.
And my favorite things that I've written now are often the things I hated while I was doing them. It felt like I was failing all over the place. Nothing was working, and I wasn't happy with it. But because I had those feelings, I worked extra hard at it, and that made it better.
Yeah.
And surprising things that by the time I was done, I was just sick of it, and I never wanted to see it again. And those are usually the best things that I've written because I spent so much time on them. It's as simple as that.
So maybe we had a lot to say about writing
a lot
practice.
to say because it's important, right? Because that's the actual writing.
That's right.
Getting the words down.
And we could probably talk more about the relationship between one's life and one's writing another time, because that's an interesting aspect of this.
But I think that next time, we actually had a special topic in mind. We wanted to talk about names and naming.
Because we both love that process of how do you pick names, how do they emerge, and what are important elements that go into naming.
And writing in speculative fiction, you are creating new worlds, new people. I guess that's true of all of fiction. You're creating new things.
But I mean, I was doing historical writing recently, and names are just as important in the history context as they are in science fiction.
They get into everything.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be, I can already tell it's going to be pretty exciting. So thank you for watching. Click on the link to subscribe if you want to see more of these.
And we'll talk to you again next time.